What's up, Vanguardians? Thanks for tuning in to another Vanguard live stream. As always, we got a lot of great shit to cover today. Super excited to break down the news. Looking forward to talking especially about some of this KHive versus Pete Buttigieg drama, which is really taken over the conversation as far as Kamala Harris's job performance goes. Will she be replaced? Will there be this kind of war to replace Biden? Anyway, we also got some more updates on the Joe Rogan versus Cenk Uygur beef. That's some fun stuff. Bernie Sanders voting no on the Pentagon proposal. We got some other stuff too to talk about, but how you doing, Zach?
Yeah, as you were saying, thank you for everybody that's still tuning into the MSNBC guard, the Grift guard, the Ryan Grimm guard over here. No, yeah, we have a lot of really good shit to talk about today. I'm super excited, and I did want to, kind of get the show rolling with, a little bit of a conversation about something a little bit more serious before we get into some of the more, salacious kind of commentary that we often, amuse ourselves with. Is something that really serious happening today, and that was the scheduled, planned execution of Julius Jones in Oklahoma. His execution was just commuted to a life sentence, but it was a life sentence without the possibility of parole by Governor what's his name? Stitt. I don't know what his first name is. I can't think of it right now. It's Governor Stitt, though, in Oklahoma. And I just wanted to talk about that really quickly because, yes, of course, it's a great relief to everybody that and all of the people who were tirelessly advocating his cause. That he's not going to be killed today, but the evidence that he's innocent was so overwhelming that even the governor of Oklahoma was willing to intervene, again, thanks to the tremendous pressure that was put on by countless advocates and individuals who have been working for a long time to, prove his innocence. But to put the caveat in that he has no possibility for parole just underscores the fact that the American system of quote unquote justice is perpetually a system of injustice. It is not about getting to the bottom of these crimes. It is not about determining whether or not this man is innocent. And there's just a couple of quick standout things that you can, read out to understand that. He has an alibi from all of his family that he was at home having dinner with his parents and his sister. So that's 3 individuals at the time of his murder. The legal team did not present this alibi during his trial. They did not call Julius Jones or any of his family members from that dinner to the stand. So that's extreme negligence by a public attorney. He did not have, he didn't even meet the description of the original description of the person that committed the crime. And not only that, 3 people incarcerated with a man named Christopher Jordan, who identified Julius Jones as the getaway driver, said that he was actually he identified himself as the getaway driver and Julius Jones as the shooter, actually confessed to multiple inmates during his time of incarceration that he framed Julius Jones. These people have never met Julius Jones. They've signed affidavits, confirming what they've said. So all this evidence stacks up that he's innocent completely, and yet they're still going to keep him behind bars. He's still basically received a sentence to die in jail. They've just postponed the date. So, of course, it's, I guess a somewhat of a relief, but it's still so fucked up. And I just wanted to say something about that to start the show.
Yeah, 100%. We can watch this too. This was a clip I pulled in relation to this story, a little bit out of date now because he has the execution has been obviously commuted, like we were just talking about. So he's not going to be executed anymore, as this says. But this is still an important video that explains some of the context because, yeah, this is super fucked up and important.
Hey, everybody, it's Kamal here to talk to you about Julius Jones, a black man who's on death row in Oklahoma. He's on death row for a crime that he says he never committed. He's never wavered from that. Many people in his community, many people around the country don't believe he committed it, including me. School kids in Oklahoma are walking out of school right now over this. The Pardon and Parole Board of Oklahoma has voted 3-1 to grant him clemency to set him free. The only person we need to understand that Julius Jones did not commit that crime right now is Governor Stitt of Oklahoma. He is scheduled to execute Julius Jones within a few hours when I'm recording this, November 18th. So we need to get the word out. We need to make our voices heard. Share this video. Make your own videos. I just want to go over a few facts that I got from the Innocence Project about why Julius Jones could not have committed this crime. You can go look at this, look this up yourself, but here goes. So apparently, while the crime was committed, Julius Jones was at home having dinner with his family. His legal team did not put him on the stand to give his alibi. They did not give his alibi. They didn't put his family on the stand. Bad legal representation. It's the story of black folks in America. Okay, 2. Julius Jones did not match the description of the person who was described as having committed the murder. That person is a man who actually says he was the getaway driver for Julius Jones, the person who matched the description. He got a lesser sentence, 15 years, and is free right now. That person also is said to have told the story of committing the murder and framing Julius Jones to 3 people who were in prison. None of those 3 people were given a lesser sentence to make up a story or anything. They just wanted to tell the truth as they saw it. So he told 3 people that he was incarcerated with that he actually committed the murder. All right. So here's what we need to do. We need to put pressure on Governor Stitt.
Anyway, as I said, the sentence has been commuted, so he will not be executed today. But as you said, Zach, he will remain in prison, unfortunately, without the chance of parole, which is really a bummer. So yeah, this is definitely some mixed news. As it says here, after spending the past 20 years fighting for his life on death row, Julius Jones' sentence was committed to life without the possibility of parole hours before he was scheduled to be executed. So, at least we have that, but again, not enough. Anyway, definitely an important story. And it does show the power of activism and putting pressure on politicians to do the right thing. There was mass walkouts of school, I think it was college kids in Oklahoma to protest on behalf of Julius. So, yeah, definitely inspiring in that aspect.
Yeah, and I just think it also shows just how broken the legal system is. You in the face of all of this injustice, this man has had so much of his life taken from him already. He's lived in perpetual fear of execution for, God, I think it's 19 years or something astronomical. And now, in the face of all this overwhelming evidence, the government does not want to acknowledge a wrongdoing on its part so badly that it's just going to lock him up, throw away the key, and forget about him in a life sentence. So, of course, the inhumanity, the pain, and all of those things that come from an execution by the state, those things are avoided. But I do think it's really important that we remind ourselves that this man still is sentenced to die in prison, just of old age or some other ailment instead of a lethal injection, and that's still a death sentence.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. We do have some other news to get into today. And before we get started on the main show, I did want to shout out our patrons. As always, huge shout out to the patron community. Thank you so much to everyone supporting us on patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. That link is in the description. We are getting ready to roll out some new patron benefits as well. We're going to be introducing a call-in feature in the very, very near future. So super excited for that, to share some conversation and dialogue with you listeners out there. But yeah, if you want to be on the shout out board, get access to our Discord server, early access to certain content, and more, you can hit up that link in the description. It is probably the best way to help the show, to support the work we're doing, other than, of course, hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button, and the notification button as well. Helps us beat the algorithm. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in today. Really excited to go over the news with you guys. Appreciate seeing you all in the chat. Appreciate the fact that some of you guys are still enjoying the show. But yeah, let's get into it. I guess we can start maybe with this Bernie Sanders news, because I also thought this was pretty based of Mr. Bernie Sanders. We can show this. Let's see. Bernie Sanders blasts record-shattering Pentagon budget proposal. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is calling on lawmakers to reject a proposed $778 billion Pentagon budget. The 2022 National Defense Authorization Act calls for a $37 billion increase in military spending compared to President Trump's record Pentagon budget. This is Bernie Sanders speaking from the Senate floor Wednesday. He said, "At a time when the scientists are telling us that we face an existential threat in terms of climate change, we are told that we just don't have enough money to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel and create a planet that will be healthy and habitable for our kids and future generations. Just don't have enough money. Yet today, the U.S. Senate will begin consideration of an annual defense budget that costs $778 billion. And as has been noted several times, including by us, that's the annual defense budget. So that's how much money will be spent every year. And of course, this is relevant because the infrastructure bill, the Build Back Better plan, which was originally $3.5 trillion, that was to be spent over a 10-year period. So it's actually far less spending than this yearly military budget. I mean, I don't know what
7.5 trillion, 7.78 trillion.
Yeah, there you go. That's what it is over the course of 10 years, which is double the amount of the original Build Back Better plan before it got gutted of all of its decent provisions for the environment for working class people. So totally fucking disgraceful. Props to Bernie Sanders, obviously, for leading the charge against this. We can play his video too, where he goes into a little more depth explaining his opposition to this defense budget proposal.
Yeah, and really quickly, I mean, a lot of people will remember that this was the exact bill that the House shoved through without any discussion during the time that they were actively debating the $3.5 trillion infrastructure bill. This was the watered down version already of Bernie Sanders' $6 trillion proposal, which was already, as he put it at the time, much too low, and it should have been closer to 10 trillion, right? So just to give everybody the perspective of where the goal should be and how far we've come from that. The House of Representatives under Pelosi, right? They pushed through the $7.78 trillion bill over 10 years, right? It was, I believe, more than double the infrastructure bill that they were negotiating at that time. And it went through without debate, no holdup from the likes of any of those more conservative House members, no holdup by any of the Democrats to say we're not voting for this unless we get some Republican support for our infrastructure bill. None of that kind of negotiation. Now it's fallen on Bernie Sanders to be the last voice of reason in the Senate. Obviously, this will pass anyway, but it's good to hear Bernie Sanders' opposition.
Right. And another insane fact about this new defense budget proposal is that it's $25 billion more than what Joe Biden even requested in the first place. So, just yet another example of the deficit hawks being quiet when this kind of outrageous government spending is going on. But of course, whenever good government spending is going on to expand the social safety net and actually help American citizens, then it's, crying till the end of time about how it's going to cause inflation and raise the deficit and all this horse shit. So anyway, without further ado, we can take a listen to Senator Sanders explain himself on this bill and this issue. This is pretty good stuff.
I wanted to tell you briefly why I'm voting against the defense bill, which is $778 billion. I find it very strange that many of my colleagues are very worried about the deficit and the national debt when it comes to the needs of working families, the children, the elderly, the sick, the poor. Oh my God, we can't afford to do anything. Deficit is so big, national debt is so big. But wait a minute. When it comes to the military-industrial complex and the defense bill, $778 billion for 1 year, and that is $35 billion more than Trump's last budget, $25 billion more than President Biden wanted. Well, that's okay. We'll pass that. Don't worry about the deficit defense bill. Then, on top of that, what is likely to happen is they're going to attach another piece of legislation called the Competitive Act. And that is $250 billion, and in the midst of that, there is $52 billion going to a small number of microchip companies. Now, I think we do have a microchip crisis in this country, very important. We want to produce them in America, but you just don't hand out corporate welfare to a handful of very profitable companies. You make sure there are some strings attached so the taxpayers don't get ripped off. And oh yeah, I forgot. Also attached to this bill is $10 billion going to our good friend Jeff Bezos to help him get to the moon. So there you have a bill loaded with corporate welfare, significantly adding to our deficit. Very little discussion about it, especially from the so-called deficit hawks. Thank you.
And this reminds us a little bit, Gavin and I, we were just talking about this, of why the fuck people miss Bernie Sanders, right? He's the only person that's really out here making content like this, and of course, there's going to be people who come, to the reasonable conclusion, of course, he's, opposing this, it's going to pass anyway, and that's true. But people, need to know that there is a lot of bullshit going on behind the scenes. And we used to have people like AOC that would tweet through like random, breakdowns of legislations, and she's become a total complete like shill for pushing them down your throat. And Bernie Sanders has been accused of that too at times by me, but I think in this clear instance, it's that old school Bernie. This is what's in the bill. This is why it's bad. not only are they going to pass this, which is 25 billion more than Biden wanted, and it's X billion more than what Trump had done. He'll talk about why there's this sidecar bill that's also going to get attached to it. That's 200 some odd $billion, the billions of dollars for Jeff Bezos. This is stuff that people need to know about. And this is what drew people to Bernie Sanders in the first place. Makes me really nostalgic.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely miss when Bernie was running for president. That's for sure. Providing some actual hope and optimism to this movement. But in related news, I also wanted to talk about this. Sometimes we discuss how on the occasion libertarians can work together with progressives and socialists on certain priorities which they share, such as ending the wars, and in this case, forcing a vote on Saudi arms sales. So Senator Rand Paul is actually trying to court Democrats, mostly Bernie and the like, to force a vote on the Saudi arms sale. He's aiming to file a motion banning the Biden administration's first major missile sale to Saudi Arabia. Democrats are hesitant to join him, not surprised. But yeah, it says Senator Rand Paul told The Intercept on Tuesday that he will most likely force a floor vote on the Biden White House's first major arms sale to Saudi Arabia and is seeking out Democrats to co-sponsor a resolution. The vote would test senators' position on a $650 million export of 280 Raytheon-built advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles and 596 missile launchers. The Pentagon notified Congress on November 4th that the State Department had approved the sale, giving lawmakers 30 days to issue a ban. Paul said he spoke directly with fellow arms sales skeptic, Senator Chris Murphy, about the deal on Tuesday. He told Murphy that he's very interested and in all likelihood will file a privilege motion to stop the export, guaranteeing an immediate floor vote on a resolution of disapproval. This would follow a joint resolution Ilhan Omar introduced last week to block the sale. So here we have, Rand Paul working together with Ilhan Omar and hopefully Bernie Sanders as well to stop this. It says Bernie Sanders is currently undecided and he has to look at the details. So hopefully they get together on this and are able to force a vote on the Saudi arms sale, because it's outrageous that we continue to fund the genocidal Saudi Arabian regime.
Well, Gavin, what you're not understanding is that those are only defensive missiles that we're going to be selling to the Saudi Arabia. That's only defensive weaponry that's going to go over there. So no, obviously that's not the case, right? That was the horse shit that they were saying that, we're only Obama, fucking Freudian slip. Biden was saying that, we're only going to sell, defensive arms to that. There's no such thing as a defensive fucking, arms like that. But I hope that, this is something that Joe Biden doesn't unilaterally veto, because we saw similar legislation try and, get passed through under Trump. I believe it was Ro Khanna that was involved with it at the time. And again, Rand Paul and Trump vetoed it after it was able to get through after the bipartisan legislation to withhold the arms sale. So this will be a really interesting point for if they are able to get it on Biden's desk. People will, it will be a really clear example of what kind of a president Joe Biden's going to be. Is he going to be just like Trump? Is he going to, continue that war profiteering? His record would say yes. But it would be an interesting opportunity because he's so in love with bipartisanship. It would be uncharacteristic of him in that capacity to say, Rand Paul, Ro Khanna, two people from across the lines come together. You could see him being like, well, this is the bipartisan consensus. I'll sign it. I could see it going either way if we're being fair.
Yeah, 100%. I did want to say shout out to Alan C. Thanks so much for the $4.99 super chat, Alan. Alan says AOC cannot break down her political thinking and reasoning because it's all about fear of Big Nancy. Her strategy, please mommy at all costs. Well, unfortunately, that does seem to be fairly accurate. Usually AOC and the squad at large ends up kowtowing to what the likes of Pelosi want. Obviously, AOC did vote no against the bipartisan infrastructure bill because it was decoupled with the Build Back Better plan, so we gave her credit for that. But mostly, yeah, I mean, no serious opposition coming from the likes of AOC.
Yeah, I mean, she voted for it after she knew it was going to pass, and she probably got a fucking pat on the head from Nancy Pelosi that says, "Go stick it to him, you little firebrand." But yeah, that is what it is, and I don't want people to feel like, you're just completely ignoring any of the mistakes that Bernie Sanders has made. But you know, I think in this instance right here, when it comes to the military Pentagon moment at this point in time, he's the best one opposing it that we've got. And I feel like it's fair to give the guy the ground on that one.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. By the way, if you guys are watching, make sure to hit that like button. It does help promote our stream in the algorithm. But yeah, to move on to another story, this is going to be a fun one. Another chapter in the Cenk Uygur versus Joe Rogan beef, or at least the Cenk Uygur trying to make there be a beef. Seemingly Joe Rogan isn't really quite fully reciprocating, but we do have a recent development here because he finally did address Cenk in an interview. Not sure what the interview was, can't find the clip itself, but apparently Joe Rogan called Cenk silly. So Cenk took to Twitter, says, apparently Joe Rogan called me silly in an interview. Hilarious. Hey, meathead, you're best friends with a certifiable lunatic named Alex Jones. Hard to have any credibility on intelligence after that. Also, how is the deworming medicine going for you, genius? So there we go. Cenk Uygur, of course, continues to mauled on Twitter and try to provoke some sort of like a beef or whatever with Joe Rogan. We reported on the story from a month or so ago where Cenk was literally trying to fight Joe Rogan, saying like, I would beat the fuck out of you. I've been in so many fights and all this craziness. So, obviously, don't agree with Joe Rogan on much these days. I think he has turned into basically just a boomer style conservative chud. But that being said, it's also pretty pathetic to watch Cenk Uygur so desperately try to, get his attention.
Yeah, I mean, it's fucking hilarious, actually, and look, the fact that he called him silly and this dude has got such a fragile ego that's fucking got to him. Like, how many people that Joe Rogan probably really likes and he's been like, oh, that guy's silly. Like, Abby Martin goes on Joe Rogan's podcast pretty regularly. And I remember one time I was upset for her because I felt like she was being condescended, but he was like, oh, you're such a crazy lefty. I love you, man. You're a crazy lefty. And I'm like, do not condescend this woman. But, what I mean? So I'm sure he didn't mean any like massive offense by it if we're being charitable. Joe Rogan's a really affable guy. That's why he's popular. You know what I mean? It's not like he's out here trying to start beefs and start wars with people, especially a guy like Cenk Uygur, who he just seems like he doesn't want anything to do with, right? And Cenk Uygur's so fucking humiliated by that because Joe Rogan would rather hang out with Alex fucking Jones than spend any time with Cenk Uygur, and he doesn't want to do any personal reflection onto what that fucking says about his character. It's like, yes, Alex Jones is being sued by like 13 different motherfuckers, and they just won about defamation and all of his horrible Sandy Hook shit. And yes, he spread all kinds of misinformation and lizards aren't real and all that shit. Joe Rogan would still rather kick it with that guy than you. And maybe you should do a little bit of soul searching as to why you're so fucking unlikable, as to why that might be, instead of continuing to maul on Twitter, dig up dewormer jokes, which had their moment, but it's past. And it just makes you look super cringy. And like you're dog whistling in defense of CNN with their fucking horrible ass horse dewormer efforts against Joe Rogan, which were admittedly cringy, right? Like Gavin and I don't care if you make like memes of Joe Rogan evolving into a horse. We thought those were funny as shit. But it's also another thing to be a news network that says somebody injected horse paste when they actually injected a human version of ivermectin, right? Like everybody understands comedy. Like there's a line that you can't be up there telling jokes on CNN, like you compromise that credibility that you already lost like 2 decades ago. But anyway, this is just a fucking hilarious, like, oh, I'm just as big of a meathead moment from Cenk. Like, I'll fucking fight you square up, homie. Like, it's so desperate and fucking just another sign of their complete, like, just collapse from relevancy, to be honest, Yeah,
100%. And it looks like Cenk is definitely trying to get trending again, which he succeeded. That's usually what this is all about. And he is out here not only going after Joe Rogan, but also Bill Maher. He says all the fake tough guys of media like Bill Maher and Joe Rogan pretend that it's so brave to hit the least powerful people in the country, the trans community, Muslims, and now expanded to almost all minorities. That takes no courage at all. Try punching up like you used to. Cowards. So I'm not exactly sure what specifically he's referring to. I don't know if Bill Maher recently said some like cringy transphobic shit or whatever. But I do have to admit that Cenk is correct on the substance here. It is pretty gross seeing the likes of Joe Rogan specifically. And it doesn't surprise me if Bill Maher jumped on that train too, like shitting on the trans community and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But it's kind of like a weird thing to without any. I think this is just like his go-to in the pocket. Like I've definitely seen Joe Rogan interview some crazy Islamophobes and like nod along and be like, yeah, bro, yeah, Islams, they won't stop until they convert everybody. That's a real disease, man. Like that kind of rhetoric was really popular on Joe Rogan's podcast at one time. And so that's true, and I would not dispute that, right? But it's and again, he said some shit about the trans community that I don't really agree with at all. And obviously, Gavin and I stand in firm solidarity with the trans community 100%. So again, yeah, those 2 points are fair, but it just is a remarkable fucking self-immolation to just start tweeting at all of these guys like you're the only real tough guy in media left when. Like, it's not like he's a stalwart of the fucking trans community. It's not like I mean, maybe he does his best, but it's not like he's been very successful. I don't know how many fucking members of the trans community are like fucking holding Cenk Uygur up as if he's their bastion for what's the fuck is right or wrong, or if how much time he devotes the Young Turks towards, trans liberation and all that kind of stuff as an actual news organization. Joe Rogan's just a literal interviewer podcast host. So I don't know. I just think it's pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely a shameless attempt to get attention and to trend on Twitter. That's what most of Cenk Uygur's Twitter content seems to be about, just trying to provoke people into talking about him, which good job. You succeeded. Here we are talking about you. Anyway, he's definitely going on the warpath here. He says, for right wingers, I get why you fanboy over Joe Rogan. He now supports all of your wacky ideas. Again, not exactly wrong. Joe Rogan has become pretty fucking cringy lately. For everyone else, he was just on the podcast with Tim Pool and Alex Jones, where they talked about how poor Rittenhouse was the victim. Wake up, this guy is a normal right-wing asshat here. So yeah, I mean, again, definitely Cenk just trying to get attention, just trying to start beef with Joe Rogan, who's of course a much bigger name and personality and much more relevant personality than Cenk at this point. But again, you're not exactly wrong on the substance there. That was basically just a cringy conservative boomer fest over on the Tim Pool cast the other night. The clips that we watched were definitely fairly cringe, I would say. But yeah, he's going after Bill Maher again here too. Now, Bill Maher pretending to be brave again by supporting right-wing critical race theory is not taught in schools. He's helping asshole racist right-wingers pretend it is. Everything he said on CNN was a lie. No one is separated into oppressors and oppressed in the schools. So yeah, Cenk is really just getting in here fighting the culture war with his fellow commentators here, which is ironic because he was recently tweeting about how like, oh, can't we, put aside the culture war for a little bit and just, come together where we agree, even with people on the right wing, for example, which a lot of people were making fun of him for saying, because he's criticized people for essentially saying that same position in other words. But so yeah, it is kind of funny to see him out here fighting the culture war, going to war with all of these other commentators. Definitely a desperate bid for attention, like you said, Zach.
Yeah, and to be fair, right, that was a cringy ass fucking panel, and I do think that Joe Rogan, despite what he says about oh, I support Medicare for all, like and I would have voted for Bernie Sanders, I think that if push comes to shove, that dude's politics definitely make him at least like a populist fucking conservative, in any capacity. And I've listened to a shit ton of Joe Rogan. I don't come at this as an uninformed person. I used to deliver pizza for a living right around that 2015 time when that was like basically every fucking late night pizza delivery guy was into Joe Rogan, despite his faults. But yeah, it's just really strange. And I guess that it makes sense. There was that clip that was going around of Bill Maher recently doing an interview. Fuck, I forget where. I think it was on CNN or something. That's probably what he's reacting to. But either way, I don't know. Interesting molding from Cenk Uygur, somebody who desperately wants to be taken seriously, but then does shit like this and then just can't be the way he wants to. You know what I mean? And it's fucking hilarious too, because like 6 months ago, I feel like he would have been groveling to go on Joe Rogan's show. Like ball butt hurt that he doesn't get invited on anymore. Like maybe I'm wrong about that, but it does seem to be like that's the cycle. But I fucking can't believe that Joe Rogan actually put this out. This is fucking hilarious.
God, yeah, it's just a cringe fest in general, this entire story. Most of the personalities involved are pretty goddamn cringy, in my opinion. If you ask me, Bill Maher, Cenk, Joe Rogan, not exactly the people I look to for enlightenment, but it definitely a funny story to talk about. And I can't deny that I'm enjoying the beef going down between Cenk and Joe Rogan, even though, again, it seems like it's mostly a one-sided beef with Cenk Uygur just desperately clamoring for attention and to get a response out of Joe Rogan, which, again, he finally did here, but it was just in the form of being called silly. So, not a serious response, not a serious engagement with the ideas, but just basically being tossed aside as someone who's silly and not worth engaging with, which Joe Rogan has already made clear, hence why Cenk Uygur has never been invited back on the Joe Rogan Experience since that very initial appearance. I don't even know if you guys remember that, but Cenk Uygur did actually go on the Joe Rogan Experience at one point, a long
with
time
Anna, I
ago.
think.
Was it? Yeah, I'm trying to find it myself too. I'm not sure if it's still up on YouTube, but there was a point where Joe Rogan.
Sorry, I think Anna Kasparian may have been on there separately, but episode 416 definitely had Anna Kasparian on it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I found a clip of it. We can show you guys just because it's been so goddamn long. It seems like so much has changed since these days. But yeah, here's Cenk Uygur on Joe Rogan, a clip of it.
Morse guys actually kind of scare me, but
They scare me too.
Yeah. He said, but this is NBC. We're insiders. And I was just in Washington. They're not happy with your tone. And we're the establishment here, and you got to start acting like it.
Whoa.
Isn't that amazing?
And you're an insider. So I have a new package for you.
Right.
And this package is, shares and this. And
See, Joe, you nailed it. You nailed it because that's what came next.
No.
Okay.
Damn, seems like they're so friendly, so buddy. What happened?
Joe stopped platforming Cenk Uygur and stopped calling him back. What the fuck happened to Dave Rubin? Dave Rubin used to say all kinds of nice shit about Joe Rogan, right? Well, okay. We all know what happened there. He was so unserious that even Joe Rogan couldn't take Dave Rubin serious. That's a low bar. The man just interviewed Ben Shapiro for like the 40th fucking time.
Yeah, and that's actually a great comparison because Dave Rubin is also someone that just absolutely malds over the fact that he's never been reinvited on the Joe Rogan Experience since that one episode where he was basically totally revealed as a hack who didn't know what the hell he was talking about and was just regurgitating anti-regulation libertarian talking points. Joe Rogan totally showed his ass on that podcast, if you guys remember, with some very basic pushback and revealed Dave Rubin to be a totally vacuous, moronic commentator that doesn't really believe what he says, is always just trying to grift and find a lane, make some more money, stay relevant, etc. Anyway, after that, Dave Rubin got super salty about Joe Rogan's refusal to have him back on, and was trying to make all these like swipes at him and subtweets, and he was like, Joe Rogan shouldn't move to Texas. He's a Bernie Sanders guy. You're gonna bring all your Bernie Sanders ideas and socialism to Texas, and like all this horse shit, as if Joe Rogan is in any way a socialist. But yeah, still funny stuff. Like I said, I'm hoping that we get another chapter in the Joe versus Cenk beef at some point, because it is just so goddamn funny to talk about.
Yeah, Joe paternity leave is crazy. The socialist Joe Rogan.
Exactly. And that's why you can't even really call him like a populist, because I mean, a right-wing populist would at least be in favor of paternity leave, given how much they talk about pro-family policy.
Yeah, but there's the weed shit, and he says fuck a lot, and I don't know, I don't know.
In some ways, he does seem more like a libertarian with some leftist like social ideas. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, if push came to shove, he would like Medicare for all, and he would say that he agreed with those kinds of things. But he's also pushed back on Kyle Kulinski a couple of times, or the last time that he was on recently, about like some bullshit reasons why we shouldn't have Medicare for all, and like all these times about wait lines. And I actually saw a great tweet from Ben Burgess the other day, and he was like, I've seen a lot of shit on my timeline about how the wait lines are longer in Canada, and to some extent that is inevitable if we employ a Medicare for all system in America, but that's because half of our fucking country can't afford healthcare, and that doesn't strike me as a good fucking thing.
Sorry, I had to remove the cat from my lap just to avoid another attack. But yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, if half the country or more can't even afford to have healthcare administered to them, yeah, that's going to make the lines half as short. But again, not exactly a good thing. So, yeah, definitely interesting following Joe Rogan's trajectory, though. And again, like I said, this beef is pretty goddamn hilarious. But yeah, we can move on to another story now. Do you maybe want to talk about this Beto O'Rourke governor announcement?
Yeah, let's get into Beto, because I think that, the Democrats might try and dip back to this well if he's not going to win this governor race, but I think they're going to pretend for a while that he will. And then you're going to see a lot of puff pieces like, Beto coming to the rescue, and Beto's the fresh face of Democrats, and can Beto take on fascist Governor Greg Abbott, who hates women's bodies, and all these kinds of things, to try and prop him up again, in spite of how disastrously he performed in the presidential race after narrowly, well, not really narrowly, just flat out losing to Ted Cruz.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, we can play his announcement video. Take a look at this.
For governor, and I want to tell you why.
Running for governor.
I'm running for governor, and I want to tell you why. This past February, when the electricity grid failed, and millions of our fellow Texans were without power, which meant that the lights wouldn't turn on, the heat wouldn't run, and pretty soon their pipes froze and the water stopped flowing, they were abandoned by those who were elected to serve and look out for them. It's a symptom of a much larger problem that we have in Texas right now. Those in positions of public trust have stopped listening to, serving, and paying attention to, and trusting the people of Texas. And so not focused on the things that we really want them to do, like making sure that we have a functioning electricity grid, or that we're creating the best jobs in America right here in Texas, or that we have world-class schools, or that we make progress on the things that most of us actually agree on, like expanding Medicaid or legalizing marijuana. Instead, they're focusing on the kind of extremist policies around abortion or permitless carry, or even in our schools, that really only divide us and keep us apart and stop us from working together on the truly big things that we want to achieve for one another. It's a really small vision for such a big state, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I know that together we can get back to being big again, because I saw that in February when the electricity grid failed and those in power failed all of us. It was the people of Texas who were willing to put their differences behind them and get to work doing the job at hand, which meant helping our fellow Texans get through that crisis. We did this out of a sense of duty and responsibility to one another. Now imagine if the governor of Texas felt that same way. Well, there's something that you and I can do about that. I want you to be part of this campaign. And whether that begins today with a campaign contribution, or signing up for a volunteer shift, or just committing yourself to talking with your friends and family about how important this election is, I want you on the team. And I want to win this with you and for all the people of Texas. I'm looking forward to seeing you out there on the campaign trail. Thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know how well Beto's going to do in this race. I'm not exactly convinced that he's going to pull it out unless current Governor Greg Abbott just massively fucks up his reelection campaign, really embarrasses himself in a major way. I just can't see Beto quite pulling this out. It seems like the Democrats are always so convinced that they can win Texas, but it almost kind of strikes me as the Larry Elder in California thing, where it's like they're really convincing themselves. They really want to believe that this is possible and that they're so close. But I think they're going to be reminded that they're going to get a cold slap in the face from reality, especially given the mood of the country right now with the midterms coming up and the red wave upon us. I just don't think it's the right time for someone like Beto O'Rourke, a politician like him, to take on the Republicans in a state like Texas and be successful.
Yeah, and not only that, he's going to go up against, in the state of Texas, a clip of him on every radio station, on every television station, saying, "I will take your AR-15," because that's what he said after the El Paso shooting. And that is just political suicide in Texas. There is no way that he's going to win a governor race if they plaster that shit all over the place. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think that it's a huge L already. That being said, I think that it's probably a shoe-in for him if he goes through the Democratic primary in Texas, just with the money, the press, the facial recognition, all that kind of stuff. I think he'll get through the primary, but I don't think he has a snowball's chance in hell at ever becoming governor. And he's super uninspiring. I mean, sure, he's better than some of the worst people we saw during the presidential primaries, but that is because, and I think people really need to let this sink in, those were some of the worst politicians in American history running for the Democratic primary. But I loved Bernie Sanders. I thought he did a pretty bad job with a lot of his messaging about Joe Biden. But outside of that, I thought he did really well. Basically schlop for the rest of the candidates, right? And you could argue that, Bernie Sanders could have been more polished himself. As far as like, had you put him up on stage against an Obama in 2008, he would have had his fucking hands full debating that. I think any of the people on the debate stage would have, just as far as politicians go. So even though Beto ran for president, it doesn't seem to have really polished him that much. He's still very like, I'm just standing here and telling you this shit in the middle of a field in fucking Texas. And there's no real warmth to it. There's no real honesty. We want better schools. We want the best schools in the nation. It's like, I probably could show you, take out that one thing he said about right to people's bodies. It could have been a fucking deal for like some random Republican governor, who, you take out the thing about expanding Medicare, and basically everything he said could have been said by anybody. Like, oh, let's legalize marijuana and let's be better as the state of Texas. Let's have good jobs and oppose bad things. Like, let's stop being divided. Like, how's that that much more meaningfully different than Matthew McConaughey being up there and being like, let's love one another. Let's have values. Let's respect ourselves and our environment and the people around us. Let's do that together, Texas.
Yeah, that's a good point. And thanks for the super chat, Dieter McBusiness 499. Really appreciate that, man. McConaughey swoops in to take the dim nomination. Hollywood would never forgive McConaughey if he ran as a Republican, and stupid to turn down Hollywood money. I don't really predict that Matthew McConaughey is actually going to jump in this race. I think he's, been trying to get in the news, trying to get some attention, some headlines, and he's been successful in that for sure. Has a lot of people, including us, talking about the potential of his run for governor or for some office, but I really just don't think it's going to happen. It seems like every time he's out there being asked questions, he's just so out of his element and doesn't really know what the fuck he's talking about. I really get the sense that he's in over his head. And if he were to go up in a debate against like Beto O'Rourke or someone that even does have any political experience, I think it would quickly be exposed the fact that he's really not very deep or intelligent as far as his political opinions go. I think he's totally full of shit, to be honest. But yeah, appreciate the super chat. But yeah, we've covered Matthew McConaughey a couple of times now, and we found all of his commentary to be totally vapid, totally even more platitude filled than the Beto O'Rourke thing, which to his credit, at least Beto did name some policies there. Like he was talking about the electrical grid. He was talking about legalizing cannabis and stuff like that. So super low bar, I know, for a politician to talk about policies, but sometimes you'll see an ad where there is no policy mentioned at all. And it's just all platitudes. And so far, that's what we've seen for Matthew McConaughey, who straight up refuses to specify his position on a large number of political issues, which are extremely relevant, like union rights, for example, or even legalization of cannabis. I don't think he's really come out swinging for, which is crazy given his legendary status as an icon of stoner culture, but it is what it is. But do you have anything to say about McConaughey? Do you think he's going to jump in, Zach?
No, I don't think that he's going to jump in at all. And I think that, it's kind of it's honestly going to probably boil down to, it was just part of his book bullshit. He was trying to make money. He was trying, once I found out that he had a book, I was like, oh, this makes all the sense in the world. Like, he's just trying to be a platitude machine. He's trying to capture in on this like certain time where it seems like anybody can be a politician. He is a guy with a lot of charisma. He's extremely handsome and wealthy, and I'm sure he's got a lot of people around him telling him he can do anything. So that kind of confidence, a book deal, you want to buy your 15th house in the fucking, whatever islands. Like, I feel like that's more of his motivation than anything else.
Yeah, totally. And just to prove your point here, we can take a look at Matthew McConaughey's YouTube channel. See, he certainly knows that people are talking about this and waiting for a potential nomination. So look, he's using that notion as clickbait. I have some news. Oh, I wonder what he's talking about. I wonder if he's going to announce his run. Let's find out, guys. Got to watch this ad real quick.
I just signed a new deal. Hey, everybody, McConaughey here. I want to share some news about the Green Lights Journal, which I just got my first advance copy of and which is coming your way this December. Seems we've hit a bit of a yellow light. What do I mean? Well, because of the global shipping delays that you probably have heard about, or maybe you're experiencing, I got about 200,000 of these journals stuck on a boat somewhere in the ocean, and they won't be available here until December the 21st. But the good news is that it's on its way just in time for the holidays. And the best way to make sure you can snag a copy, if you want one, is to pre-order it, which you can do at the link in my bio. I can't wait for you to check it out. I put a lot of time into it. I hope helps you reflect. Hope it helps you laugh a little. Think about how to catch more green lights and embrace the reds and yellows that we are inevitably going to cross in this coming year. So for now, I appreciate it. Thanks for your support in these times and all times. Just keep.
So yeah, that's why Matthew McConaughey has been so desperately inserting himself into the news, is because he has this stupid ass journal to sell, which I think is like a companion piece to the book he wrote called Green Lights. Again, some of this like total schlocky like inspirational speech garbage. Like, we got to get rid of the red lights and the yellow lights and only focus on the green lights in life and all this horse shit, again, without addressing any sort of substantive policies, which would include Texans' life, of course. Not talking about how, you know, unions would help Texans or increase, you know, health insurance or legalization, any of that stuff. Not going to talk about that. All he wants to do is shill his stupid new book. And again, I think he's selling this stupid journal now, which is like one of those cringy, like guided journals where it like gives you prompts and then you respond. And I'm sure it's just chock full of, again, pseudo intellectual, pseudo profound, inspirational speech derivative bullshit.
Yeah, it's fucking hilarious. But to, you know, in Matthew McConaughey's defense, it's hard to say anything substantive when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, right? Which is why it completely blew my mind that of all people, Sagar Anjeti is out here worshiping the fact that this man has absolutely no idea about any active legislation in Texas, the state he wants to run and govern. Okay. No, yeah. Let me tell you what's a breath of fresh air. Somebody who's a complete fucking idiot. No, that's not what the state of Texas needs. They don't need somebody that doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. They don't need somebody that's going to do exactly what the first lobbyist tells them to do. That is the opposite of what the fuck Texas needs. And it's so obvious that I'm skeptical as to why you fell for that fucking obvious, you know, 180. Because anytime that you have somebody that they're like, oh, they're a fresh perspective, they're just going to take it on their own. We know how America works. Who's got their ear once they're in office? Lobbyists, nobody else. It's fucking simple. That's why, well, I don't know what my opinion is about that. I haven't been told yet. I got to wait until it comes on a deck of cards and I'll read it to you and we'll go from there. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, if you can't even simply say, yes, I support unions and American workers' right to unionize, which he was asked about and failed to respond accurately to. If you can't even meet that low bar, then obviously you're not going to be a serious representative of the people. Obviously, you're not going to be fighting on behalf of the working class. You're going to be kowtowing and caving to the corporations and the lobbyists all day long if he actually got into power. So, you know, it doesn't look like Matthew McConaughey is probably going to run. I think he's more interested in just, you know, selling a stupid new book, kind of like Andrew Yang. Very similar politicians in a certain way, by the way, just full of fucking platitude, empty bullshit. But I do still hope it happens because I was really looking forward to covering some Matthew McConaughey versus Beto O'Rourke cringe, and I still am holding out hope that happens because goddamn, that would be fucking entertaining as hell.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see, what else do we have to get to today here in the fucking...
Looks like we got another super chat too.
Funny how George Bush moved to Texas and gained an accent, but Matthew McConaughey been in 30 years. Still has his. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think Matthew McConaughey doesn't really, I don't even know if he has an accent, right? Like I think he probably just does that as a performer to kind of win hearts and minds a little bit, but maybe he doesn't. And honestly, probably same with George Bush, right? He probably didn't have a real fucking Texas accent either.
Yeah, was George Bush not actually? Oh, well, I guess he would have grown up in like the DC area and shit because his daddy was president. So yeah, he wouldn't have had that like innate Texas accent. I wasn't thinking about that because I was like, isn't he from Texas? But no, he probably did spend his formative years in DC.
Yeah, it looks like he was born in New Haven, Connecticut.
Well, that makes sense. And yeah, that's hilarious that after he was like governor of Texas, he had just adopted that fake bullshit accent. So yeah, that's hilarious. And absolutely same for Matthew McConaughey. So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff as always. But yeah, I'm still hoping that the Matthew McConaughey jumps in the race because I really want to see him debate Beto O'Rourke. That would be so goddamn funny. Also, someone wants you to take off your shirt, Zach.
You better put in a heftier super chat to give me but one of the things I did want to shout out before we get off the mic today, something that I thought was super dope. There's a good tweet by Jonah Furman about it. Excellent on the ground reporter, been covering the UAW John Deere strikes. And that strike effort has recently culminated in a new contract being ratified. So we can get this tweet up on the screen here. He says, there it is. The Deere contract is ratified and the strike is over. 10,000 UAW members turned down 2 contracts, killed a new tier of employment, doubled their raises, improved pensions, won back COLA, and showed the country you can still strike and win big What a righteous fight. The contract was ratified 61% yes, 39% no across the chain. Agreement passed. Have been told by International that third shift is voluntary tonight. The company will notify you when you are returned to work. Local 450 numbers 456 yes to 262 no. That's democracy right there. So yeah, this is what happens when workers band together. This is what happens when we show solidarity amongst ourselves. Fucking intense solidarity to those 10,000 UAW workers. They put it all on the line, and they should be proud of themselves. We're looking at them in admiration.
Yeah, 100%. So goddamn based of the John Deere workers to pull this off. And it's great, too, that they voted down or turned down, rather, the 2 contracts which were insufficient, held out for this one, and has now ratified this contract. So the strike is over and the John Deere workers are victorious. So, yeah, such a great W for the union movement. Great news to wake up to this morning. Solidarity with the workers, 100%. And did want to shout out Will. The one on the right is cuter. Look up Sabo Tabby. It used to be to intimidate bosses. Wait, what are you talking about?
This dude thinks I'm sexy. That's what he's talking about.
Who's Sabo Tabby, though? But yeah, that's fair. Thanks for the super chat, though.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, bro. Let's see. There was one more story that I wanted to talk about today, and this is something that I am just loving. The increasing drama coming out of the White House and the Biden administration because of this rift between Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris. Seemingly, it says here, according to LGBTQ Nation, Kamala Harris's staffers are growing jealous of Pete Buttigieg, and this is something that a lot of people are talking about because Kamala's approval rating is so bad right now. It's so in the hole. She's at like 28% according to a new poll, historically low for a vice president. I think it's actually the lowest approval rating of a vice president in the modern era. So needless to say, with Joe Biden, a decrepit, farting, near corpse of a president, clearly he's not going to be able to make it in 2024, in my opinion. I just don't think the dude will be capable of successfully running a re-election campaign. I just don't think it'll be possible. He's so goddamn old. It's been mentioned that, even in 2016, when he was considering running at that point as just a one-term president. And he didn't run in 2016. He ran in 2020. So now he's at where he would be at his second term had he run in 2016. Again, totally decrepit, totally incapable of doing this job. Not to be ageist or anything. I'm just saying, guys. I don't think he's going to be able to continue leading the Democratic Party in his condition. So it says here, in a lengthy profile documenting the dysfunction in Vice President Kamala Harris's office, CNN has revealed that Harris aides are growing jealous of the White House's relationship with our Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. Harris's staff feel that Buttigieg is getting preferential treatment by Joe Biden, while the Veep has mostly been sidelined. Buttigieg adopted newborn twins with his husband, Chasten, and took paternity leave to care for them and help out around the home. One of the children, Gus, was hospitalized for 3 weeks with a non-COVID related respiratory infection. He was released from the hospital earlier this month. Right-wing conservative blowhard Matt Walsh said it was absurd and luxury for public employees like Buttigieg to receive time off. Fox News host Tucker Carlson said that Buttigieg and his husband took paternity leave to try to figure out how to breastfeed. That's pretty fucked up. Both men accused Buttigieg of causing the supply chain problems plaguing the American pandemic recovery. While the problem is actually people who haven't been vaccinated getting sick or spreading the virus. Again, this is just this random website. This isn't my commentary. This is theirs. But both Walsh and Carlson have railed against coronavirus prevention measures. The White House defended Pete Buttigieg. Paid parental leave is a priority of the administration. It's hard to miss the specific energy the White House brings to defend a white man, knowing that Kamala Harris has spent almost a year taking a lot of hits that the West Wing didn't want to take themselves, a former Harris aide told CNN. So in their opinion, in the Harris camp's opinion, Buttigieg is not only getting all of the good assignments. You know, he's basically going to be in charge of a lot of the infrastructure rollout, being the transportation secretary. Meanwhile, Kamala is being sidelined, and they don't feel like the Biden administration is coming to her defense in the same way that they came to Buttigieg's defense when he found himself in a controversy after the paternity leave episode. So, you know, it seems like to the Harris team that Biden and his administration are totally leaving them out to dry, setting them up for failure, and almost, you know, intentionally, you know, making her approval go down by putting her in these situations. But let's be honest, it's really because Kamala Harris is a terrible politician that's incapable of connecting with the American people or inspiring goddamn anyone, because she doesn't stand for anything. She doesn't actually have any values or any leadership qualities or capabilities. Whenever she speaks, it's awkward as fuck. It's super cringe. She can't rile up the crowd, etc. So, you know, what this really is her just trying to scapegoat her own ineffectiveness as a politician on to someone else who's just slightly less ineffective in Pete Buttigieg, whereas the White House is actually running defense for both of them. So, yeah, I thought this was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, the second that Pete gets into the limelight like Kamala does, like if Pete would have been taking the fucking bullets if he was VP, I really think they're just thinking, oh shit, hold Kamala in front of Biden to take all of these bullets. She's the VP, and then we need Pete later on so that we have somebody else. Like that's what they're doing. And of course, yes, in America, late stage capitalism, patriarchy, racism, it's easiest to scapegoat a black woman. I won't dispute that, you know. And in fact, I did want to put up this tweet that we have of I think it was Reverend Barber, and then there was a really good response to it as well. You know, so a lot of respect for Reverend Dr. William James Barber. Obviously, he does a lot of really powerful work. I'm sure we don't always agree on politics, but that's neither here nor there. Yesterday, he said people need to back off VP Harris. She's a powerful woman. She's a powerful black woman. She's been given some of the toughest political assignments in the face of two Dem senators who, under the lie of being so-called moderates, have blocked $15 an hour, minimum wage, voting rights, etc. You know, I would offer the counter that, you know, that's what she would have been doing if she was leading. You know, she would have been the one that was negotiating and you know, marionetting these two Democratic senators to block 15-hour minimum wage, to block voting rights, to do all this stuff. She has never lived a moment of her career where she was not a pawn for the establishment. And I think somebody summed it up really well with a reply that they had here. If I think we have it, Gavin.
People who are fleeing murder capitals of the world. There are children who are fleeing murder capitals of the world, who have fled, most of them, murder capitals of the world. We have families that are fleeing murder capitals of the world. A mother
That's
who
not a lot.
pays a coyote. Imagine a mother who makes a decision to pay a coyote. When a mother pays a coyote, often through a caravan with a coyote even, to transport her child through their country of origin, through the entire country of Mexico, of traveling through the entire country of Mexico, to transport her child across the entire country of Mexico, through the entire country of Mexico. It was safer for them to take that trek through Mexico, facing unknown peril, facing unknown peril, facing unknown peril in what they know could be a perilous journey. We have always presented ourselves as being a nation of strength with strong arms, the strong arms of America. Part of the strength of our nation is supposed to be that we have strong arms, that when people are fleeing harm, we will embrace them, which will embrace and protect anyone fleeing or facing harm, should be here to receive anyone who is fleeing harm.
I agree.
I want to be clear to folks in this region who are thinking about making that dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come. But what does Donald Trump do? But what does this president do? He virtually looks at those children and says, go back to where you came from. Not to flick them away and say, go back to where you came from. And that's the kind of policy we've had from this administration. He says, go back to where you came from. That is not reflective of our America and our values, and it's got to end. And I believe if you come to our border, you will be turned back. If you come to our border, you will be turned back.
So that's just such a damning compilation, not only because it reveals how goddamn scripted their politicians like Kamala, their stump speeches are, just repeating the same bullshit cliches and platitudes over and over again that you're not even actually going to follow up on when you're in office. But then at the end, revealing and showing that clip of her saying, "Do not come," which of course she was sent to go do by Biden. One of the harder tasks that a executive or a president has to do is deal with the border and immigration issues. It's almost like a no-win situation in a sense. And he, of course, relegated Kamala to do that and to go make that speech. And to her credit, I don't think it was her that wrote that speech. I'm sure she was just reading whatever the fuck they gave her to read. So that's why they feel like she's being sidelined and relegated to all the toughest tasks. Well, Pete gets all the glory. But yeah, that compilation really does expose Kamala for the terrible goddamn politician that she is.
Yeah, I mean, that's why, I mean, it's hard to defend her, right? There's no there. She has compromised on everything there. I mean, she never stood for anything that I agreed with. And now the few things, or hardly anything I agreed with, the few things that we could have agreed on, like immigration, right? I always love to quote Clueless, right? It doesn't say RSVP on the Statue of Liberty, right? Like that was the best fucking Kamala moment earlier this year when she was telling everybody not to come here. Everybody was putting that out there. But this is why people don't like her, because you can't just constantly fold on your values in public a million times over in the age of the internet, where people can clip it and play it, over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Of course, all politicians are doing that. So she's really bad at covering up. She makes it super obvious, right? So it's pretty indefensible, right? And especially because that was supposed to be one of her like one good issues, right? Like she wants to be this like neoliberal person that's like, we love everybody, pro diversity, all this kinds of shit. It's hard to do that and then like spit on a bunch of children who are desperate and starving and coming from one of the most dangerous places on earth. Somebody in the fucking chat was like, what is the murder capital of the world? All right, fair enough. There's a lot of fucking murder going on in places like Mexico, places like America, right? Somebody else quoted Jay-Z, the murder capital, where they murder for capital, right? But yeah, I just think that there's no real way to defend Kamala Harris at all. And that's why the KHive have just resorted to calling anybody that fucking messes with her people who are afraid of powerful black women. I would love more powerful black women in America. I got no problem with it. I just would like them to actually have conviction, stand up for all communities, all kinds of shit, and not completely fold and just stand in the way of taking bullets for Biden.
Yeah, 100%. And I honestly am pretty disappointed in the Reverend Dr. William J. Barber for putting out that tweet defending her. Like, come on, dude. She's not a strong politician at all. She's not a good politician at all. She doesn't even stand for the right thing. She never stands in solidarity with progressives when they're actually trying to push Biden left. And even though she ran on legalizing cannabis and stuff like that, nominally more progressive issues, it's not like she's doing anything to actually pressure Biden to enact those policies or doing anything to move the administration in a more leftward progressive direction at all. No, she's totally MIA and totally ineffectual. So yeah, definitely loving the drama though coming out of the White House as far as her flailing prospects as VP and potential future president. Seems like everyone's coming to the realization that she's just not going to cut it in a primary or in a general election come 2024. Again, the Democrats are already at a point right now where they're becoming incredibly unpopular given Biden's performance. And Harris, who has been one of the least popular aspects of an already unpopular administration, is certainly not going to be able to carry forward and somehow rehabilitate the image of this administration or of this kind of neoliberal politics. Again, being the least popular part of an already very unpopular administration and style of governance.
Yeah, it's complete shock considering how she did in the primary too. I mean, who could have saw this coming, right? I mean, wow, everybody wanted to rush out and vote for Kamala. That's why she dropped out before her own fucking home state, and it was embarrassing. Which, how many states was Kamala even around for? Did she drop out before the Iowa?
Yeah, she dropped out before Iowa.
Yeah.
She didn't even make it to the fucking first state. She didn't let a single person vote because she knew she would fail so miserably, which is also hysterical given how at the beginning of the primary she called herself a top tier candidate and constantly, made references to how well she was going to do. Clearly, she took the media coverage to heart, but did want to address that. Thank you, Jonathan, for the $4.99. Please play the "What You Doing Tomorrow" clip of Kamala of McAuliffe endorsement for some levity. I can't say no to that, sir. Let me pull that up right now. That's one of my favorite clips of all time. Let's check it out, guys. This is one of Kamala's best moments.
Tell everybody you know to vote tomorrow. Nothing like saying, "You want to meet me tomorrow? What you doing tomorrow? You got any plans tomorrow? Tomorrow's a good day. It's gonna be a good day." But the point is,
definitely one of my favorite moments of all time. So thanks for reminding me of that, Jonathan. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I just love that because not only does she fail to rile up the crowd by, giving that fake inspirational bullshit, let's go out tomorrow, but also she's like doing this fake like Southern accent, like she's fucking Paula Deen or some shit. When everyone knows you're a coastal San Francisco liberal, stop fucking trying to trick us, bro. We all know you're unlikable as shit and super out of touch with the American people.
Yeah, dude, and it's fucking crazy. Look at the what's his name, Terry McAuliffe next to her, just standing there like wincing in agony, like he's like like you can't see his face expression, but his body is just like a fucking pencil, like he's holding in like a deep shit. Like it's just fucking hilarious.
Totally correct. Muted. Oh shit! Did see a super chat from Patrick Taylor. Thank you so much for the $49.99. 2022 is going to be a bloodbath. Holy crap! You're not wrong, Patrick. And thank you once again for the super generous donation. Really, genuinely appreciate that and love the comments from you too, sir. So thank you so much for that. But yeah, I totally agree. 2022 is going to be a bloodbath, and I'm not saying that because it brings me any pleasure that the Republicans are going to take back over. But goddamn, it's like, the Democrats aren't doing anything to retain their majorities. They're not doing anything to increase their popularity or actually enact policies that would increase their popularity. I mean, legalizing cannabis is such a clear layup. For example, something that unites the country. Joe Biden pretends to have this fetish for bipartisanship. Here's an issue which is not only supported by the left, by the Democratic voters, but also by independent voters and Republican voters. In fact, congressional Republicans are filing legislation to decriminalize cannabis on a nationwide level. So, because of Biden's ineffectualness and because of the fact that he can't even be at the same point policy-wise that the entire rest of the Democratic Party was at, including people like Kamala Harris, including all these neoliberals like Beto O'Rourke and Pete Buttigieg, people that we make fun of all the time for not being progressive enough. Even those people were on board with a policy like legalizing cannabis. It was considered obvious in the Democratic Party. Joe Biden unilaterally removed the legalization of cannabis from the Democratic Party platform when he won the the Democratic nomination, and sacrificed such a key popular policy position to the Republicans. Now they're taking this now. So unless he does something and actually steps in, legalizes cannabis, yeah, it's just indicative of yet another issue where he's letting his approval rating slip for no good reason. He totally could take that W if he wanted it, as well as many others, like canceling student loan debt, for example.
Yeah, I mean, there's a shit ton of things that he could do, and not only that, he could start putting some real pressure on Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema and actually give people what the fuck they need. So, of course, guys, Kamala Harris is a distraction from the deeply flawed, deeply corrupt fucking Joe Biden administration. Absolutely. No arguments there. They are using her as a human shield so that she can eat as much shit as possible and protect Joe Biden in any capacity. That's what he's doing. He doesn't fucking like her. He didn't want her to be his VP anyway. This is fucking politics, baby. He's fucking taking advantage of the chips and the cards that he's got. You know what I'm saying? That's what he's doing. Kamala Harris has every right to be pissed off about it, but I don't feel fucking sorry for her because she knew what she was fucking signing up for. She sold her soul to the fucking devil already. When she decided to, be a Democratic operative or a fucking top cop of California all those fucking years ago. Sorry, I don't shed tears over former police. Okay. But it is true that that's what's happening. And it is going to be a bloodbath, and it is going to be terrible for the Democrats because I certainly hold massive numbers of criticisms of the man for strategy differences. I've also been massively inspired by him at different times. I am now desperate, it feels like, depending on my mood, for Bernie Sanders to fucking do something, man. Like, I don't know what the fuck to do because, and everybody's like, we already learned that lesson. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we learned that fucking lesson. What are our other fucking options? Absolute dog shit, nothing. I don't know what to do, man. I don't know what to do. I need somebody to get in Bernie's ear and say, hey, man, You're fucking up your legacy. We need you to do a hard turn and get this shit back into high gear because you are the last hope we have. That's how I feel right now after watching all these other fucking dunces like Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Beto O'Rourke, whoever the fuck they're going to try and shove down our throat. When, like you said, they can't roll out Joe Biden's bag of bones in a fucking wheelbarrow and try and ask people to vote for him. I don't know, man. But shout out to this super chat from the Absolute Wanderer. It's not about winning. It's about serving the established powers that be. We're basically voting for who serves them better. It feels like it, man. It feels fucking like it.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks so much for the super chat, Absolute Wonder. And yeah, I totally agree with that. And I totally agree with you too, Zach, even though it might just be a fat dose of hopium. It would be great if Bernie came in and at least tried to, reignite that progressive movement in this country. Even if he didn't win, at least remind people of what's possible, about what they should be fighting for, and actually resisting this neoliberal bullshit establishment in some way, shape, or form. Obviously, if Bernie were to by some miracle mount another presidential challenge, I think one thing that I would be very insistent on, just as a voter and a fan myself, would be that he threatens the Democratic Party to run as an independent if they fuck him. We saw that this was successful in the race against India Walton. They weaponized that exact tactic against the progressive candidate in India Walton, and Mayor Byron Brown successfully ran a write-in as an independent and won. So, you can't tell me that the Democrats only give a shit about unity. You can't tell me that they're actually interested in unity with progressives, with socialists. And again, despite the fact that I definitely haven't agreed with everything Bernie has done this far as a member of the Democratic Party, as the, Congressional Budget Office chair, you can't deny that he's actually trying. He's actually giving a shit, unlike any other Democratic, senator in Washington. He's actually done his best to get a decent bill shepherded through, even though now it's been gutted before his eyes. And, as tragic as that is, it would also be a great impetus for him to, again, mount another challenge against his administration, saying, I tried my hardest. I tried to play along. I tried to play team with you fucking people and actually help the American people, despite the fact that I had to put aside some of my values and principles in order to do that. You fucked me anyway. This is indicative of the rotten system that we live in, of the rotten, disgusting Democratic Party that we find ourselves in. And that's why I'm once again mounting a challenge, mounting a political revolution to come in and, banish these ghouls from Washington, D.C. once and for all, to retake the Democratic Party for the people. Again, I think he'd have to be a lot tougher. I think he'd have to be a lot more willing to call out his competitors on stage, the Joe Bidens of the world, and in no certain terms explain why they are in fact corrupt and why their policies are the result of corruption. That's something he unfortunately just didn't hammer home enough in 2020, including when he reprimanded Zephyr Teachout for pointing that exact fact out in her excellent op-ed about Joe Biden's corruption. So again, obviously, like I said, mostly just a fat dose of hopium here, just trying to talk about this as a potential, but I certainly wouldn't be opposed to it either. And, if there's anything to say about that potential, it's just that he might, if there is any possibility of it happening, he might wait until after the midterms. That way he doesn't get blamed for the Democrats' loss. If he were out here calling them out constantly and they lost, obviously the media would blame him. He might wait to start talking about that kind of thing until after the midterms. But again, mostly just optimism.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, and we have a couple of super chats to get to. One that's a little off topic, and then I'll get back to you, Christina, because I do want to talk about the Bernie Sanders thing you mentioned. Off topic, but I don't know a better time to ask. No worries, Boeing 757. We appreciate the super chat. Very generous donation. Thank you. Can you guys cover the outrageous prosecution of Wayne Hewing? For trespassing onto factory farms to report abuse, facing literal decades in prison. Thanks, good show. So I quickly Googled this person. I do not know enough about them to give a robust commentary today, but we appreciate your donation, Boeing, and I'm going to do some looking into this after we get off the air. It does look like he maybe ran for mayor of Berkeley at one point. I'm not seeing much about his prosecution when I Google him. That doesn't mean it does look like he's an American attorney and activist. He's the founder of Animal Rights Network, Direct Action Everywhere. Seems like a based guy based off of that shallow reading. But Gavin, did you know anything about?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. But thank you so much for the donation, Boeing 757. Really appreciate that, and thank you for bringing this to my attention as well. The ag gag laws are totally insane, and the fact that they prosecute people for trespassing onto farms to expose the reality of the condition in factory farms is absolutely outrageous. I did thing. I think I found an article about this here. 4 activists who targeted Petaluma poultry farms appear in court. I think this is about this gentleman as well as a few other people. 4 animal welfare activists facing felony charges related to large demonstration at 3 Petaluma poultry farms got their first peek at the case Sonoma County prosecutors have built against them during a preliminary hearing Tuesday. The defendants, Wayne Hassan Prius, I'm not even going to try to pronounce people's names because I don't want to fuck up, face felony charges of grand theft, commercial burglary, and felony conspiracy to commit a crime in the demonstrations, which played out at Sunrise Farms, where chickens are raised for meat. The 4 members of Direct Action Everywhere, a Berkeley-based animal welfare group that says its mission is to bring attention to the suffering of commercially raised animals and provide relief to animals when they can. So it sounds like a pretty militant animal rights group, which of course I think is absolutely based. The fact that they, risk their freedom and are risking their freedom to expose the realities of the absolutely horrific, truth on the ground in the factory farms, the disgusting, inhumane conditions in which we treat our animals. So yeah, I think that's awesome. I have so much respect for these kind of activists and environmental activists too, that, really take that next step, if you know what I'm saying.
100%, and solidarity to those people. And Gavin and I will do a better job of looking into those direct actions against factory farming, because that's disgusting and it's one of the crimes that we don't talk about enough. Typically, not to be one of those fucking people, but there's so much to cover, right? That sometimes animal rights falls by the wayside. It shouldn't. So we could always do a better job of covering that for sure. So thank you for that super chat. But I didn't want to respond to Christina Suozo as well. Bernie sold out his followers twice. They're heartbroken and delusion. Biggest waste of political capital ever. I actually don't disagree with this assessment. I 100% understand where your feelings are coming from. He did sell out his followers twice. He should have never endorsed Hillary Clinton. He should have raised a fucking hell after he was cheated at the DNC, and he should have run independent. And when he got fucked again in 2020, there was all the shady shit in all of the primaries. Not only that, he should have never called Joe Biden his good friend. He should have never reprimanded Zephyr Teachow for calling Joe Biden corrupt correctly in The Guardian. All these things are true. He did have the biggest waste of political capital ever, perhaps after Obama, who actually did make it into office on all these promises that he completely abandoned. It's true that he had a revolutionary spirit behind him that could have been utilized to get bodies in the streets to put pressure on. I think some of that was fear of getting Trump reelected from his part. A lot of it was also probably COVID related. I'm not saying he played his cards right, but what I will say is that say Bernie Sanders doesn't run in 2024, the progressive movement is dead as far as the regular public is concerned. I feel like, because people will say, oh, we'll find a new, better Bernie. Find me another person that's a serving, sitting U.S. senator that donated $20,000 to the striking Kellogg workers. Find me that guy. I want to know him.
Yeah, 100%. Does seem like a pretty good cap to our show today. I think that's everything we have to talk about. But yeah, I do really appreciate you alerting to us of this story, Boeing 757, and we'll do a full segment on it on our next show, because I do want to cover that. It's a really interesting story, and solidarity to those activists. Again, so much respect for those kind of activists who put their freedom in jeopardy in order to expose the truth, just like any whistleblower. Just tremendous amounts of respect and solidarity. So yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in today. Really enjoyed going through the news today, talking some shit as always. Did want to shout out our patrons, of course, who make the show possible. Thank you so much to everyone supporting the show on patreon.com/The Vanguard channel. This is all zoomed in for some reason, so here we go. There we go. Big shout out to the patrons. You can hit that link in the description, patreon.com/The Vanguard channel, if you would like to join our patron community and get access to our benefits, including some early content for you guys, some exclusive content, some Discord server action, and some new exciting announcements coming soon too that you're going to want to be on the ground level for when they drop. So yeah, just a huge shout out to our patrons. Like I said, it really does make the show possible. It helps us do what we do and continue to do it 100% viewer funded and free of influence outside of you comrades. So yeah, just thank you so much for the support, guys. And again, if you want to join that community and be on the shout out screen at the beginning and end of every single live stream and at the end of every single video, then you can hit up that link in the description and sign up for our Patreon. Really does help support the show. But yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, I did want to react really quickly to Steve Breedlove's super chat. He offers an opposite opinion of Direct Action Everywhere. says that they're garbage and that they target small producers trying to do the right thing. So Gavin and I will do some homework and we'll come back with our official opinion of what's going on at that organization. But yeah, thank you for the super chat, and we'll be back and we'll definitely do a full segment on it and let people know how we stand.
Yeah, thanks for the information, Steve. I'm not 100% familiar with this specific group. So yeah, we'll do some more research on it and do a full segment on our next live stream and give our nuanced takes on everything. But yeah, really appreciate the donation, Steve, and thanks for the comment. And thanks everyone for watching today. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're not already. We really appreciate that. And it does help keep us on YouTube. So yeah, thanks so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we'll be back. Oops.